and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on.
I'm awash with the stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into some really interesting audio clips, pulling back the curtain a bit on life in Ambridge. It paints this picture, of a rural community dealing with personal stuff, big environmental plans, and, well, the usual village gossip.
Yeah, and what's fascinating, I think, is how these sort of everyday chats show you what's really going on underneath. It's not just what happens, but how the community handles things like change, family issues, big new ideas, and tries to keep secrets, often not very well.
Right. So our mission, our deep dive today, is to pull out some of those surprising insights from these moments. We want to help you see how interconnected everything is, personal lives, community projects, and what it's like living somewhere, everyone of your business.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. So first up, we've got this quite unique situation, haven't we? A gathering after Gran's funeral. She made it to 100. And the way it was put was sad, but not a tragedy, which feels like a really fitting tribute to a long life.
Absolutely. A life well lived, definitely. And it sounds like Tony, her son, gave a wonderful eulogy. Apparently there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It really shows the impact someone can have over such a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And then the get-together at the pub afterwards, it seems it sort of turned into a bit of a party. But here's the interesting bit for me. Right in the middle of all that, Natasha apparently pointed out what a good showcase it all was for their tea rooms catering.
Ah, yes, that sharp business sense kicking in. It's quite something, isn't it? How you can pivot from, mourning and celebrating life to spotting a market opportunity. It shows that kind of pragmatic streak. They even set up a meeting right away, didn't they? 4.0 in the tea room while it's all fresh in our minds.
Seizing the moment. It does make you wonder how often these big life events actually spark new business ideas, or maybe just solidify existing ones.
I think quite often, probably more than we realize, shared experiences, big emotions, they can definitely highlight needs or opportunities.
And that adaptability, that sort of making something positive out of a situation, we see that on a much bigger scale too with this rewilding project. The Beaver project, as Kirsty's running it now, and Phoebe, who handed it over, seems genuinely impressed. Call it so impressive.
Oh, sounds it. They're planning this new beaver enclosure, 5 hectares. That's a fair bit of land, and construction's about to start. It's not just any old fence either. We're talking really serious fences.
How serious?
Well, 2 meters high, and crucially, 1 meter deep into the ground to stop them burrowing out, you see. Plus grills at either end of the brook. This is proper infrastructure. And the budget reflects that, looking at, the best part of $40K a year over 5 years.
Wow, okay. That's a serious investment. So it's not just about having cute beavers around, is it? There's a solid reason behind this.
Oh, definitely. They're called nature's engineers for a reason.
Yeah.
The idea is their dams create these natural weirs.
Yeah.
And that slows the water flow, provides somewhere for excess water to go in times of spate. Basically, it should really help reduce flood risk.
Which is a big deal there, right?
Yeah.
After that major flood around here they mentioned.
Exactly. So the payoff could be huge for the community. The beavers themselves are due this autumn.
Okay, so a clear benefit, reducing flood risk. You think everyone would be on board, but how's it actually being received? Especially given the cost and, change.
Well, that's the tricky part, isn't it? It seems most ordinary people are quite happy, mainly because of the flood protection. Makes sense. But mainly the farmers were cautious. Some even positively hostile, apparently. And there's a hint that this includes people quite close to home for Phoebe. 2 cases not a million miles from your own family.
Right. So that classic tension. Environmental benefits versus maybe local established concerns, perhaps livelihoods. How do you balance that?
It's the perennial question in these situations, isn't it? Progress versus tradition, or perceived risks versus potential gains.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of changing perspectives, sometimes you get these unexpected shifts, which leads us nicely to Justin Elliott. Apparently he's gone from being preoccupied with his cat, tied up with that blessed cat, was the phrase, to being really supportive of the rewilding. hands-on even.
It's quite the transformation by the sounds of it. He didn't just renew the contract for the BL land, the Porchester land.
Which is key land for this project.
Absolutely key. He renewed it for another 5 years, but he also added another few acres and put some of his own money in. That's a significant step up in commitment.
Especially when you consider the history. Grandma Peggy, who started the funding, was always a bit suspicious of it.
Exactly. Though Peggy herself sounds like she was quite something. Very farsighted, quite radical in her way. So maybe Justin's just, I don't know, finally seeing the value in what she started. He actually said he found her truly inspirational and felt he owed her a lot.
That's really interesting. So what do you think flipped the switch for him? Seeing results? Peggy's legacy? A bit of both.
It could be a mix. Maybe seeing the project develop, understanding the flood mitigation benefits more clearly, perhaps feeling a connection to Peggy's vision. Now he's more involved. It shows how someone's view can genuinely evolve, moving from maybe skepticism or detachment to active participation and even financial backing. It's quite powerful.
It really is. So we've seen community projects changing perspectives, but underpinning everything is always the personal stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the way news travels.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Phoebe. She's got big news. She's pregnant.
Lovely news. And Roy's reaction sounds priceless. Utterly speechless at first.
Followed by a great shout and apparently knocking his chair over. You can just picture it. Those raw, real moments.
Absolutely. But Phoebe also had other news to share about her new partner, Dane. She waited, understandably, until after the funeral. But then her parents, Pat and Tony, they acted. Well, weird, that's how Phoebe put it. Like, they didn't want to know, even blanking her.
Which sounds awful and really confusing for Phoebe. Turns out, though, it was sort of Tom's fault.
Sort of, yeah. He admitted he'd told Pat and Tony not to pry, not to be helicopter parents, or overstep the mark when they first heard she was dating someone new.
Oh, right. So they were trying to give her space, but they maybe went too far the other way, trying not to interfere and ending up looking completely uninterested.
Exactly. That classic parental dilemma, how involved is too involved. And of course, complicating everything is the village itself. The news about Phoebe and Dane had already gotten out anyway, through the grapevine, apparently via Susan Carter telling Pat. It just proves, doesn't it, it's impossible to keep a secret there.
No kidding. So poor Phoebe's caught in the middle. She doesn't want silence, but she probably doesn't want intense grilling either. She just wants, as she put it, a middle ground. Asking normal, interested questions instead of being icy. It really highlights that double-edged sword of a tight-knit place.
It does. You get the support, the closeness, but you also get the scrutiny, the lack of privacy. Everyone knows what's going on, or thinks they do.
So if we sort of pull all these threads together now, what's the bigger picture emerging from these snapshots?
Well, I think what really stands out is just how deeply connected everything is. Individual lives, family moments, big community projects like the rewilding, they all influence each other. You know, a funeral leads to a business idea, a personal relationship gets tangled up in well-meaning but clumsy parenting advice, and village gossip, a big environmental plan creates ripples among different groups. It's all interwoven.
Yeah, it's a really vivid picture of how personal and communal life constantly shape each other. And it reminds you that any kind of progress, whether it's personal growth or a community project, it rarely happens smoothly. There are always challenges balancing different views, like with the beavers and the farmers, navigating family dynamics, dealing with that ever-present grapevine where, secrets don't really stand a chance. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Thinking about communities like Ambridge, how do you see them working? How do these kinds of places both support the people in them, but also maybe constrain them in some ways? Something to ponder.
So what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around again.
So what do you do?
I'll do the spot effects on the archers.
Are you what we call Foley then?
Kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the ball bar.
This one.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came in. So during 2 months, not much chance of that now. But I mean, it would have been a stretch for him financially, mind you. I just wish there was something practical I could do to help him go on.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever